One of the most fascinating parts of human culture is how easily people can hold onto ideas that don't line up with reality. Religion is a perfect example. It's full of claims that range from the oddly funny to the outright bizarre. And yet, for many people, these beliefs aren't treated as stories or metaphors, but as literal truth. Take the idea that the entire universe was created in 6 days. Not figurative days, not symbolic ones, but 6 actual 24-hour periods. This is still taught as fact in some communities, even though geology, astronomy, and biology all tell us a very different story. To accept the 6-day creation, you have to reject entire fields of science, and yet millions do without hesitation. Or consider the belief that a global flood once covered the earth, wiping out nearly all life except for one family and a boatload of animals. It's presented as history, but the logistics fall apart instantly. 2 of every species, on a single wooden boat, for months, with no ecosystem collapse afterward? It's the kind of story that should spark laughter if it weren't taken so seriously. What's striking is how belief can override common sense. People accept stories that would sound ridiculous in any other context. If someone today told you that a man survived inside a giant fish for 3 days, you'd probably laugh. But when told as a religious tale, it's treated with reverence. The same goes for talking animals, burning bushes that deliver speeches, or seas parting on command. It's not just ancient tales either. Modern believers often cling to equally strange ideas. Some insist that natural disasters are punishments for human behavior. Earthquakes or hurricanes, blamed on who people love or on whether society is moral enough. Instead of studying fault lines or climate change, entire tragedies are explained away as divine anger. The belief adds a bizarre layer of meaning where none is needed. Then there's the idea that prayer can change the outcome of events. People pray for their sports team to win, for exam results, or even for parking spots. Despite overwhelming evidence that outcomes don't improve compared to chance, the practice continues. If prayer worked as advertised, lotteries would collapse overnight and hospitals would be half empty. But because it feels powerful, people hold onto it, ignoring the silence on the other end. One of the funniest contradictions is how people pick and choose which rules from their holy books to enforce. A verse about shellfish is dismissed as outdated, but a verse about sexuality is defended as eternal law. The same book says not to mix fabrics or plant different seeds together, yet few believers think twice about polyester blends or gardens. The selectivity isn't just inconsistent, it's almost comical in how arbitrary it is. And yet, laughter here is bittersweet. Because while these beliefs are odd, they also shape laws, education, and people's personal lives. Schools in some regions are forced to teach creation science alongside evolutionary biology as though the two were equally valid. In courtrooms, people swear on books that contain instructions for stoning. In politics, leaders use supernatural claims to justify real-world policies. Anthropologists often point out that humans are natural storytellers. We're wired to explain the world through narrative. Before science, myths were a way of making sense of the unknown. But what's remarkable is that even after we have clear explanations, the myths persist. People still believe snakes spoke, the sun stood still, or bread literally transforms into flesh. The persistence itself is a kind of comedy, except it's not staged, it's lived. Some beliefs go beyond funny into deeply strange, like the idea that a deity keeps a record of every thought, word, and action of every human, all 7 billion at once, and will one day use this record to decide their fate. It's a cosmic surveillance system that makes modern technology look primitive. Yet people accept it not as dystopia, but as justice. Or think about the notion that suffering children are part of a divine plan. Instead of acknowledging randomness, poverty, or systemic failure, believers comfort themselves by saying tragedies happen for a reason. The idea is meant to soothe, but when looked at directly, it's absurd. To claim that a child starving is part of an intentional design stretches belief past the point of reason. Then there are miracle claims, statues that cry, pieces of toast that resemble holy figures, or healing water sold in bottles. These stories spread quickly, fueled by hope and desperation. And yet, when investigated, they almost always collapse into natural explanations or outright fraud. What's funny here is not the gullibility itself, but how often people suspend their critical thinking when the claim matches what they want to believe. All of this shows something important about human psychology. Once an idea is labeled sacred, it bypasses the usual skepticism. People who wouldn't believe a stranger on the street will accept the same story if it's told from a pulpit. Belief creates a shield around the claim, protecting it from laughter or doubt. That's why ideas that would normally sound silly, like bread turning into flesh, or invisible battles between angels and demons, are instead treated as profound truths. The humor in these beliefs comes from the contrast between their seriousness and their content. If someone told you a magical sky being cares deeply about whether you eat meat on a Friday, you'd likely smile. But when dressed in ritual and tradition, the same claim gains an aura of authority. It's like society collectively decided not to laugh at the emperor's new clothes, even when the silliness is obvious. At the same time, it's worth remembering that laughter has power. Throughout history, satire has chipped away at dogma. Jokes expose contradictions faster than arguments do. Pointing out that two animals of every species couldn't fit on a single boat cuts through centuries of debate with a single chuckle. Humor doesn't just entertain, it liberates. Another belief that often raises eyebrows is the idea of a literal devil who spends all his time plotting against humans. An invisible enemy with horns and a pitchfork, blamed for everything from bad thoughts to global events. If someone trips over a step, it's the devil trying to make them fall. If a teenager questions authority, it's the devil planting doubt. The sheer range of what this character supposedly does is almost comedic. One moment orchestrating world wars, the next hiding someone's car keys. Then there's the fascination with relics. Bits of cloth, bones, or splinters of wood treated as if they hold supernatural power. At one point in history, there were enough pieces of the true cross circulating in Europe to build several full-size ships. Each church proudly displayed its fragment, each claiming authenticity. The humor is in the scale. If even half were real, the cross would have been taller than a skyscraper. Consider, too, the belief in guardian angels. Invisible beings assigned to follow each person around, preventing accidents or guiding choices. Yet somehow, despite billions of angels supposedly on duty, tragedies still occur constantly. When accidents do happen, believers explain it away as part of the plan. When they don't, the angel gets the credit. It's a heads I win, tails you lose situation that manages to insulate the belief from any contradiction. Another strange idea is the literal interpretation of resurrection stories. A man executed, buried for 3 days, then rising bodily from the grave. The belief is that this event was both unique and central. Yet in ancient times, stories of dying and rising gods were surprisingly common. Cultures surrounding the Mediterranean had their own versions long before. The odd part isn't that such a story exists, it's that people are convinced this one is historically accurate, while dismissing all the others as myth. Some modern beliefs also reach into health and medicine. Faith healing practices encourage people to forgo proven treatments in favor of laying on hands or drinking blessed oil. Some churches even claim to raise the dead, though none can provide credible evidence. The comedy here has a darker edge, because the cost is sometimes measured in lives. Still, the persistence of the idea shows just how strong belief can be, even against overwhelming counterexamples. And then there's the obsession with the end of the world. Predictions of apocalypse have been made repeatedly for centuries, each with absolute certainty, each proven wrong. From ancient calculations to modern televangelists setting dates, the pattern is the same. People sell their possessions, quit jobs, or prepare bunkers, only to face the dawn of a very normal day. The sheer number of failed prophecies should be enough to end the cycle. yet the belief keeps coming back. An especially amusing contradiction is how some believers dismiss other religions' miracles while fiercely defending their own. A crying statue from a different faith is a hoax, but a crying statue from theirs is a sign. The double standard is so transparent it borders on parody. It reveals not just the power of belief, but the selective blindness that comes with it. One thing psychologists note is that many of these beliefs survive because they provide comfort. A guardian angel explains a narrow escape, a miracle offers hope in illness, an apocalypse gives meaning to political unrest. In this sense, the humor is not in mocking individuals, but in noticing how the human mind clings to improbable stories when faced with uncertainty. The comedy lies in the sheer creativity of the explanations, not in the people themselves. Another curious feature is the belief in divine interest in trivial details. A creator of galaxies and black holes is said to care deeply about what foods people eat, what clothes they wear, or what words they say in bed. The mismatch of scale is almost absurd, the infinite concerned with the insignificant, and yet communities have fought wars, passed laws, and ostracized people over these tiny supposed infractions. The way rituals develop around these beliefs can also be unintentionally funny. For example, in some traditions, a sip of wine is treated as literal blood, but only after a specific prayer is said. Before the prayer, it's just wine. After the prayer, it's sacred. The transformation is invisible, yet treated with absolute seriousness. This mental gymnastics is accepted without hesitation, though in any other setting it would sound like a magic trick. In the modern age, with all our knowledge of science and technology, some beliefs stand out even more starkly. Entire groups still insist that the Earth is only a few thousand years old, despite mountains of evidence to the contrary. Some go further, claiming that fossils were placed in the ground intentionally, either as a test of faith or by trickster forces. The idea that an entire planet's geological record was staged just to confuse humans is not only funny, but oddly egocentric. And yet, these ideas show how flexible human thinking can be. People are capable of both designing rockets to Mars and simultaneously believing snakes once held conversations with humans. The juxtaposition is part of what makes this topic so fascinating. The mind can hold immense intelligence and irrational beliefs at the same time, without apparent contradiction. Another category of beliefs that stands out is the way people treat natural events as messages. Lightning is seen as divine anger, eclipses as omens, and even comets as warnings. These interpretations might have made sense when people lacked scientific knowledge, but what's remarkable is how often they still appear today. Hurricanes blamed on society's sins, pandemics framed as judgment, or wildfires described as punishment rather than the result of climate or environment. It's as though people prefer a supernatural explanation, no matter how unlikely, over accepting randomness or complexity. Then there's the belief in sacred numbers. Entire systems of thought built around the idea that certain digits have cosmic power. From the number 7 being perfect to the number 666 being feared, people attach mystical importance to what are, at the end of the day, just symbols humans invented to count. Fear of these numbers can even affect real-world behavior. Buildings skip the 13th floor. Hotel rooms avoid certain digits, and lotteries see spikes when lucky numbers are involved. The comedy here is how arbitrary it all is. A superstition layered on top of human-made symbols. Another widely held belief is that a prayer, chant, or ritual can influence outcomes in the physical world. The idea that reciting certain words in a particular order can heal illness, bring prosperity, or guarantee protection. This is essentially a form of spellcasting, though many believers would reject that label. The irony is that what they call prayer or blessing often mirrors the very practices they dismiss as pagan or superstitious. Some beliefs are geographically specific but equally strange. In parts of the world, holy water is believed to be protective against everything from disease to demons. Bottled and sold, it becomes an industry. In other regions, people wear amulets inscribed with verses to ward off bad luck or misfortune. These practices reveal a human tendency to seek shortcuts for safety, as if carrying the right object or saying the right phrase could alter the chaos of life. Then there are stories of bodily miracles, saints who supposedly never decayed after death, or monks who levitated during prayer. These tales, passed down for centuries, are still repeated with a straight face. What's funny is how these claims always seem to resist verification. No cameras capture levitation, no scientific study confirms incorruptible bodies, yet the stories persist, treated with reverence and retold as though they were fact. Even more curious is the belief that invisible forces keep a tally of every action, thought, and even intention. A cosmic scorecard determining eternal reward or punishment. It's a system more invasive than any government surveillance program, yet people not only accept it, but embrace it as justice. To step back and see it clearly is to recognize how extreme the claim really is, and how strange it is that so many find comfort in it. Perhaps the most striking thing is how these beliefs coexist with modern life. A person might use GPS to navigate, rely on antibiotics to cure infections, and check weather apps for forecasts, while still believing that unseen spirits guide daily events. It shows that belief doesn't always vanish with knowledge. Instead, the two live side by side in uneasy harmony. The humor in all of this isn't cruel. It's in the absurdity of humans convincing themselves that rules written thousands of years ago about food, clothing, or sacrifices are somehow timeless truths. That an infinite being cares more about dietary restrictions than about actual human suffering. That earthquakes can be blamed on people's private lives rather than tectonic plates. But humor has a purpose here. By noticing how odd these beliefs are, people start to question them. By pointing out the contradictions, the arbitrary rules, the failed prophecies, and the selective interpretations, the shield of seriousness begins to crack. And when that happens, people often realize that they never needed the beliefs in the first place. The truth is, humans don't need to believe in magical fish stories, global floods, or guardian angels to find meaning. We can value kindness, curiosity, and community without invisible overseers. We can explain the natural world without resorting to omens. And we can build moral lives without fear of curses or promises of rewards. When people step back from the funny, strange, and illogical beliefs tied to religion, they often find that life feels bigger, not smaller. That wonder isn't lost, but expanded, because reality itself is far more fascinating, far more intricate, and far more awe-inspiring than any story about talking animals, holy relics, or magic numbers could ever be.